Welcome to Chucky Radio. This is the premiere of my podcast. That music was by Joseph McDade, josephmcdade.com. So the purpose of this podcast is for me, Chucky, to tell my stories. The origin of Chucky Radio, where did that term come from? I actually have the person who coined the phrase Chucky Radio right here with me. So, Guido, how did the term Chucky Radio get coined?
What happens when a voice, is speaking at you? Have you ever...
At you?
Yes, at you. We've all experienced this before Chucky Radio in what was just called radio. You turn on your AM or FM or whatever, and a talking head talks at you. And you accept it because traffic is boring, or you can't fall asleep. Not at the wheel, but sometimes Chucky Radio helps for that too.
No, you guys actually would say that Chucky Radio would help you go to sleep.
Oh, well, sure. Everyone sometimes turns on the radio and puts it on a show. It has to be a nice, soothing voice, like Chucky has. And sometimes you have to modulate the volume by actually putting earplugs in.
Modulate the volume.
And you can totally... And the cool thing about Chucky Radio is the orator of Chucky Radio, Chucky, would see you put the earplugs in your ears. And you would kind of laugh and go, hey, and you would just keep talking, just like a good radio show should. You don't stop because someone puts earplugs in or turns down the volume, do you? No, not Chucky Radio.
It's the radio.
It's the radio.
Okay, so there was a little bit of like a negative connotation originally. Chucky Radio, Chucky talked too much because he tells his stories right.
And there's hardly any dead airtime or whatever.
But you have to admit that, Chucky Radio got to be kind of a cool thing every now and then. Like sometimes people would enjoy listening to Chucky Radio. And here's what's so funny. The reason this podcast even came of being, you coined Chucky Radio a few years ago, right? And I was talking to my friend Sherry, and she was on a drive to work, and I was telling her a story. And by the time I ended my story, she was getting to work, and I told her, it's like, that was Chucky Radio. And she was like, I love Chucky Radio. She wanted more Chucky Radio. She actually called me on the way going home saying that she was hoping she could get Chucky Radio. Oh. And that's where the idea came of doing a podcast. Because now I can actually create Chucky Radio that anyone can listen to on their own time.
God.
What?
People do change. Things do get better.
And I'm not going to give you Chucky Radio anymore in person because if you want to hear any of Chucky's stories, you just tune into Chucky Radio.
This is the best birthday I've ever had.
This is Guido's birthday gift. Okay, so this is it. This is the story for the premiere of Chucky Radio podcast. So this story begins, a friend of mine and I decided to go to Cozumel. She just got certified to go scuba diving, and she wanted to do an open water dive in the ocean. My cousin has a place down in Mexico, so I'm like, great, let's go down to Cozumel and you can do your open water dive. So we go down there. This is like 2 weeks ago. We get down to Cozumel, and oh, by the way, a couple other friends ended up coming as well. Literally decided the night before. I'm on the phone with my buddy Steve and his girl Annie, and they like, hey, we want to go to Cozumel. And like, fine, come on down. And Steve knows my cousin. Actually, he knows my cousin for many, many years. And so literally that night, Steve books his tickets. And so we all meet in Playa del Carmen on Friday night, have a night there, and then Saturday we head over to Cozumel. And so Sunday was our big dive day. And Annie, she didn't scuba dive, so it was just Steve, Sherry, and I. And Sherry's my friend. She lives up in Dallas. So we all go diving that day, have a great, day of diving. We're back by 1 o'clock. And as we're, finishing up, when we turn in all our equipment and all that, we're loading up the car with our stuff. And I walk across the street, and I notice this cute girl walking by, pulling her luggage. And I just, I literally pass her on the street and just say hi. And then she keeps walking and she goes towards the hotel that's kind of there in the same plaza as where the dive shop is. In fact, I think the dive shop owner owns that plaza, and he might have the hotel. I don't remember. And I noticed her looking around. So I kind of turned back around to see if I can help her figure out what she's looking for. I'm like, hey, what are you looking for? And she starts telling me that she's looking for a hotel. And I notice the accent. So immediately I'm like, oh, where's that accent from? Because when I hear people with accents, I just naturally want to know, like, where they're from. So she's from Montreal. She's, French Canadian. I'm like, oh, cool. So, like, immediately I get a good vibe because I know, like, French Canadians are cool and they love to travel. And so we're starting to talk, and it turns out she didn't even have a hotel room yet. And so she's sitting there telling me that she's looking for a hotel. She just came over to Cozumel. Her friends were back in Playa. They wanted to go shopping. And she was looking for something for like 100, maybe a little over 100 max. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, this girl seems cool. I get a good vibe from her. We're staying at this beautiful house with like 5 bedrooms. We're not using all the rooms. I'm like, you know what? Just invite her to come stay with us. So I'm like, hey, would you like to come, and we got an extra room? And like without a hesitation, she's like, sure. So I'm like, oh, cool. And so the next thing I know, I'm like taking her over to the car, and her name is, it's Anne-Marie, but she likes Ana. It's more of a Spanish style. And so I'm introducing her, hey, Steve, Sherry, this is Anna Marie. And I open the trunk, and she throws her bag in the trunk. And next thing I know, she jumps in the car with us, and we're heading off. So as a special guest here on my premiere episode, I actually have Anna Marie, who's in Montreal, Canada. Anna Marie, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Charles.
How are you?
Very happy to speak with you. I'm fine. Back in Canada. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So this crazy story about how we met, how I made this great French Canadian friend in Cozumel. It was fascinating because, and just, a little bit about my story because we had a chance to talk more, but I've been trying to be a lot more open to the universe and connect with people. And like I said, I just had this great vibe with you, and I just felt comfortable just saying, hey, come if you want a place to crash, we've got an extra room. And so, and here's the funny part, Anna Marie. Later on, the guys, they tell me, like, they thought I was giving you a ride to a hotel. They didn't know I was bringing you to the house.
Oh, really? I never heard that.
Yeah, they thought I was just like, oh, this girl needs a ride. So the next thing we know, we're pulling into the house, and I'm showing you the room. I'm like, hey, this is your room.
They were probably wondering what was going on.
Oh my God, they were like tripping out. And so I leave you, at your room. I say, hey, you can use this room, cool room, with a view and everything. And I come back down, and they're like, dude, what's going on? And I'm like, I just met this girl. She's cool. I thought, I just invited her to stay. And Steve, my buddy Steve, couldn't believe it. He's just like, no, you just met this girl, and she just brought her back to the house? I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's the way it works for me. I'm always like that, and I recognize myself in you. This when you speak to strangers like that, and you're very open to meeting new people. I was like, hey, I recognize myself in that. I think, yeah, I felt a good vibe too.
Well, here's the funny part. I love this part of the story. So at one point later on, you confessed to me that you weren't looking for a hotel. You were looking, what were you actually looking for?
A hostel. Like a
hostel.
dorm.
And when you told me
$100, it was 100 pesos. Not the same thing.
So I'm thinking you're looking for a hotel and you're going to spend $100. And I was like, this girl, and I don't know if that point you had told me that you're a teacher and all that, but I'm thinking $100, why waste $100 on a hotel? We've got this perfectly beautiful house on the beach. But later on, when you tell me that you were looking for a hostel and you wanted to spend 100 pesos, that's like $6.
Yeah, something like that.
And then, what did you tell me when I
was very surprised when you showed me the place around, and I realized that my room was as big as the house I'm living in right now. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't afford this.
So you thought that I was going to charge you for the room?
Well, a room with a balcony and a view on a private beach and all that. Yeah, I think I could.
So wait a second. This is a part of the story I'm trying to get straight in my own mind. I invited you just because I thought you were cool. You had a great vibe, and I'm like, you know what? She's she seems fun and cool, and you're a cute girl, and it's like, hey, bring someone else new into the mix of our group of friends. These are all old friends of mine, and you were actually going along with it because you thought I was getting you a hostel room, right?
Yeah, well, I could just thought maybe you had a couch or something I could use, and I just trusted you. I just
That's
felt
so
the vibe,
awesome.
and I was like, okay, just follow him. He seems nice. He seems very, easy to talk with. So let's go. I'm sure you'll have a good time, and that's what I like when I travel. Meeting new people, making new friends, having some fun. So I just followed the vibe.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And I remember you saying, you're like, I always have the best luck when I travel. I always meet cool people. And I'm like, that's awesome, And the funny part was, I remember I showed you the room and you went into the room and everything. And then I'm like, hey, whenever you're ready, just come down. We're just going to hang out by the pool. And you you were like just part of the group already. Like you came down in your swimsuit, like jump in the pool. Like it was like we've been friends forever.
Yeah, it was very easy, I just want to say hi to your friends, to our friends. I really had a good time with you guys. It was so nice, such a great time, really.
Steve and Annie and all them.
Yes, of course, good souvenirs.
Just awesome people.
Thank you
right?
for accepting me in your group so easily. This crazy girl out of nowhere.
Well, and I truly believe, we're all part of the universe. We're all connected. There's great positive energy everywhere. And when you pick up that kind of positive energy from somebody, you just get this good feeling. And it's like, I had no expectations. I just said, you know what? We've got this great place. And you don't know me that well. But I love to show my friends a good time. I love to entertain people, and I love to see joy in other people. So I had such a great time, like just watching you. Like, oh, this is a cool house.
Yeah, very cool house.
And we had fun kayaking and doing all the little activities around there.
Absolutely, such a great time.
And then that night we had fun. It got a little interesting. Remember the gyros?
Oh, yes, of course. The food was delicious.
Oh, I love that place. Every time I go to Cozumel, I got to go to Guido's. And it's funny because one of my best friends' name is Guido. And so, it's like I have a T-shirt that says Guido's, which is great. And so we're in Guido's, and it's got this beautiful courtyard, and it's like, Steve and Annie and Sherry and our new friend Anna. And so we're all hanging out having this wonderful dinner. And I don't know why, but at one point it hit me. I'm like, these guys cannot believe that I had just met you the day before. I mean, they're like still like Steve, several times he pulled me aside like, dude, you just met this girl on this so like everybody's still kind of like.
And it was the same day, right? It was the same morning. Actually, it wasn't the day before.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Like a few hours ago.
It is the same day. Oh my God. So much happened in such a short period of time. So the same day.
Yeah, and I'm there with you all having dinner, speaking like if we've known each other for years.
Right? And so these guys are they're still kind of a little bit in disbelief that I just met you that day. And so I lean over to you and I said, hey, just go with this. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, you were like, okay, I'm going to say something crazy, and you have just to say it's true, okay? I was like, okay, whatever.
So I turned to the guys and I'm like, hey guys, I just needed to tell you something, just thought it'd be funny. But I actually met Anna a few months ago when I was in Vegas. Because you had talked about traveling through Vegas, and I was actually in Vegas twice in the last couple months. So I made up this story about how you and I had just met casually in Vegas, and we exchanged information, and we've been in contact, and that you were traveling to Mexico, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be down there at the same time, and that I had actually arranged, like, hey, come over to Cozumel and hang out with us, and let's play a joke on my friends that I just met you on the street.
And the craziest story was the one they all believed, right?
The real story was the crazy story. That's what was so great about this, is that they all of a sudden, they're all like, oh my God, we totally believed you guys. They were like, oh, you totally fooled us. We totally believed you just met her today, and we couldn't believe that she's like, we thought, Chucky, that you were crazy or she's crazy.
Yeah, they were saying that. That's so funny. They were like, I thought maybe like this girl is crazy. She's following a complete stranger. She just met on the road, following him to his house.
Isn't that great? And so
it's wonderful.
It was oh my God, I was laughing so hard inside. Actually, you and we started laughing with each other so hard. Remember that? We look at each other at the table and we just start laughing so hard because both of us are like, oh my God, these guys are totally believing that we met a few months ago. So we get back to the house that night, and I could tell, like, there was something a little bit up. Like, you came out, because we all jumped in the pool, and you were going to go to bed early, and then you came and you sat, and you and I started talking. And that's when you and I had, like, the real conversation.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked for, like, no, seriously, we talked for almost 3 hours, right?
It's not more than that? I thought it was more than that. But it was a really nice conversation about, life and everything. It's so cool, to meet strangers like this that you connect with, and you just start talking about life and everything, relationships, friendships, and it's so easy, and you just grow up speaking with the other person.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
I really did too, and I really loved hearing your story. I mean, and we don't have to go into any of that, but I just thought, like, wow, this girl has gone through an awakening in life. You really, I mean, your story and your travels to, Central America and how it really woke you up, I thought was just beautiful, and I really kind of connected with that,
Yes, of course. And I really like us talking about, our families and all our backgrounds. That was very interesting, too.
Yeah. I have a few stories.
We have similar stories.
Oh, we do. That's right. We do. We have some similar stories. Okay. So the next day, so you stay that night, and the next day, I'm going to get you to your friends who are coming over to Cozumel, right?
Yeah.
And I remember you were just like, hey, I'll take a cab, whatever. I'm like, oh, I mean, my friends, you remember, Steve and Annie, they had a few drinks that night. And so we were all talking about going to the other side of the island, which, that's Chucky's tour.
Yes, the Chucky's tour. That was nice.
So Steve and Annie, they decide, like, oh man, we're staying here. We're staying at the house. We're not going anywhere. We're just gonna chill out. Oh, and by the way, that morning, that was Monday morning. Sherry had to get back, so I took Sherry to the ferry while you guys were all asleep. And then I came back, and then you woke up, and you got up about, I think it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then Steve and Annie got up. And then you'd gotten a message from your friends that they were coming over. And they were going to be on the 11 o'clock ferry, and you were going to meet them at noon, right?
Exactly.
And so, for whatever reason, we must have left a little bit late, or I felt bad because I wanted to get you to your friends, and we jump in a car, and I realized, oh crap, there's traffic and all kinds of things, and so we're hauling ass, and I drive kind of quick, right? So I'm like going around cars and doing all that and getting to the ferry, and we get there, and the ferry had already been unloading. And so I pull over, and you jump out, and you go look for your friends. I'm like, I'll see you
They were already gone.
Yes. Well, it was crazy because I told you I'll meet you back at the restaurant. Because I said since they didn't want to go, Steve and Annie didn't want to go to the other side of the island, I was going to take you guys. I was going to take you and your friend, and you had your friend from Bogota, Colombia, which I was looking forward to.
They would have loved your Chucky tour. It's the best tour in Cozumel, I can tell. But too bad for them.
I know. And it was just one of those kind of just whatever the universe, it wasn't meant to be. You looked, you tried, you text. We sat at the restaurant. We stayed on the Wi-Fi as long. But here's what I loved, Anna Marie. You finally just said, you know what? I'm not going to let this get me down. They didn't text me when they got here. They haven't told me where they're at. They should have gotten somewhere by now, and they should have got Wi-Fi. And you said, Chucky, let's just go.
Yeah, let's just, enjoy the day, have some good time, and I'll catch up with them when I see them,
Exactly.
That's the vibe when you travel,
I love
it's
that
Latino
attitude.
time.
I love that attitude. That's one of the reasons I feel like I connected with you, because you really did you embodied that attitude. Like, you know what? Things happen, things change. It didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. It didn't work out the way I expected it to. But we made the most of it, and we said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go.
Yeah, the day's great. The weather's perfect, You're in Cozumel.
So you and I took off to do Chucky's Island tour. And the first place I take you is the first stop on Chucky Island's tour, which is Coconuts.
Oh, that was great.
What did you think of Coconuts?
It was an amazing spot. The people were fun, the vibe was very fun, and the food was excellent, just perfect. Everything about this place, you have to go there. If you go to Cozumel, you have to go there. People are real fun.
We also met a cool little friend there. Remember our boy, what was his name? Nacho!
The massage giver.
Did he not give a great back massage?
Oh my God, the best I've ever had in my whole life. Honestly, very, rough and strong and perfect.
Yeah. That's, good massage people know how to find those pressure points to release stress, in your back and your muscles. And he knew his stuff, man.
Really?
Yeah. And so I thought that was really cool. And it was fun that we took a picture with Nacho on the side of the cliff. Like, I love that photo. That's like one of my favorite photos is you, me, and Nacho. So the next thing we did is we went down, we did the whole mirador where we took the pictures with the Mexican flag on the rock, and that was cool.
Yeah, so beautiful.
And then we ended up at Punta Sur, and we ended up at the Jamaican Rasta bar. You remember that, right?
Of course.
And that was kind of our last conversation in person, because we had a cool little conversation sitting there at the Rasta bar. We were talking about life. We were talking about some different cool things. I remember that conversation because I was just like, I really liked, just like how open I could be with you. You know what I mean?
Everything was so easy, right?
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. And so then we get back to the house, and I guess it was probably around 4 o'clock, because that's perfect. That's exactly what my tour. I always end up back to the house around 4. It's so funny. Every time I do this tour, I end up back to the house right around 4 o'clock. And you finally get a message from your friends. And your message from your friends is, we're getting on the 5 o'clock ferry. And I wanted to tell everybody with you there. I thought about this in advance, but I wanted to tell everybody with you there, oh, by the way, I really did meet her yesterday. And I wanted to see the expression on their face.
Like, whatever, we don't believe anything anymore.
But I forgot to do that because we're in a hurry to leave. And so I forgot to do that with them. And then you and I were driving to the ferry, and I mentioned it to you. I'm like, oh, I was going to tell them the truth. And you said, don't worry, I already did.
Well, I couldn't leave like that, could I?
I
couldn't leave,
know.
being the girl from Las Vegas, keeping the lie. No, I just wanted them, to know who I really was, the crazy girl I was in the beginning.
But so
Proper goodbyes.
So here's a part that I missed out on. I want to know. You got to describe for me what was their reaction when you told them we really met yesterday?
Well, at first I just told them, okay, so he didn't really told you the real story? So they were like, what? There's another story? They thought I was going to tell them something completely different, So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't tell them. Maybe he wanted, to keep the the story alive, so he could just have some more fun. But I was like, no, I want to tell them the truth, and do my proper goodbyes. So I just told them the first story was the real one.
Oh my!
And yeah, they didn't believe me, honestly.
You don't think they believed you?
Well, at first, no. They were just like, no, that's not true. It doesn't make sense at
Oh,
all.
I wish I could have been there to see their disbelief.
The always the true one.
I know. That's the funny part. I'm involved in like the documentary and everything, and I've been learning that real stories sometimes are better than stories that people make up. Right?
True.
It's that whole thing that fact is stranger than fiction sometimes. And so, anyway, that's awesome. I'm glad you told them because I really did want to tell them. I wasn't going to keep it a secret. I like to do jokes on my friends sometimes, and that was a good one. I mean, that was one of the best jokes I've come up with in a while. And so...
Yeah, it was excellent.
And so... I end up getting you to the ferry. There's like 5 minutes before the ferry leaves. I pull off. I'm like, Anna Marie, you got to get to the ferry. Go straight to the ticket counter. Get your ticket. Get on that ferry because it's leaving. 5 minutes. I knew they were probably already boarded.
Yes.
And that was
I was on the last. I was the last passenger.
You were the last passenger on the ferry?
Yeah, the last or so.
So I never knew what really happened because you and I really haven't talked about it. Tell me a little bit about, like, I'm really curious. Like, you finally get onto your ferry and you run over there. Did you find your friends on the ferry?
Yes, they were there, sitting in the ferry. So I met them there and I told her my crazy story.
Are you serious? So when they first see you, were they like surprised to see you?
Yes, they were. They didn't thought I would make it on time. They thought I was going to stay with you for a while, but I was starting to miss them a little bit.
Did they think you got kidnapped?
No, my friends, they know me. They know me well. They know how crazy I am, how easygoing, and how I like to make new friends, and I do this very easily. So they know me. They know they don't have to worry about that.
So did they believe the whole story?
Of course. Well, I had videos and pictures to show them. They couldn't believe.
Oh man, it was so awesome to get to meet you and know you and just that whole experience. I mean, what's so funny, Anna Marie, is it was maybe a little bit more than 24 hours, right? I mean, wait a second. We met you at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, and I left you
5
at almost 5 the following day. So that's 28 hours. So we knew each other for 28 hours. Isn't that crazy?
Absolutely. And it felt like we'd known each other for much longer than that.
I love that. Thank you, Anna Marie, for helping me tell this crazy story.
You're so welcome.
It's been. I mean, yeah. I hope people enjoy this story because I loved, just experiencing this. Right? I mean, this is what life's about. It's about sharing these wonderful experiences with cool people.
Absolutely. And I would like to conclude saying, once again, life has proved me that it's a good thing, to trust people, not being naive, but to trust people and just go with the flow and follow the vibe. And sometimes, you have the greatest moments doing, going out of your comfort zone. So
Wow.
it was an amazing experience. We had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, so many people are so cautious in this world, and I get it. You got to be careful, but sometimes you do. You get a good vibe. You talk to somebody, you learn a little bit about them, and you can just tell from where they're from. And I kind of feel like the more you get in tune with spirituality, the energy around us, that you know how to recognize when something's good and something's be careful, right?
Absolutely. I think so too. For me, it works.
Yeah, it's been working for you. It's been working for me. And I think this is a great lesson of some wonderful things that can happen, a wonderful experience that can happen. Thank you so much for being part of my journey, Anna Marie.
You are so welcome, Chucky.
Take care.
Take care. Goodbye.